Okay, welcome back. Please give a warm welcome to Ersoy Erkazanci from BloombergHT and Miriam Kiwan at Circle. We're going to look now at Web3 and the connection to payments. Miriam, welcome.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.
Thank you, Simon. Thank Janet. It was a very good presentation. I hope I'll keep up the energy like you. It's colorful. I'm not so colorful as you, but my guest is colorful. So welcome. My name is Ersoy Erkazanci. I'm a TV presenter for BloombergHT. Ayça, where are you? This stage is very glamorous. I mean, it's better than my stage. Thank you for the invitation. Next year. Miriam, welcome. Now my guest is Miriam Kiwan. She is the Vice President of MENA Circle. Can I see some hands who knows Circle? Okay. Then you have to introduce yourself and what does Circle do? And before that, I want to tell the name of the panel. The shift from speculation to Web3 utility, spotlighting payments, FX and aid. And we will talk about with you how stable coins are changing payment, remittances, and savings. So can you tell us what does Circle do and who are you?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me here, Ersoy. So the best way I would describe Circle is a financial technology company that moves money at the speed of the internet. Probably are perhaps best known for being the issuer of USDC, which is the most trusted and regulated stablecoin around the world. We're very pleased to expand our presence here in the Middle East and Africa region by being present in the UAE, and we are very much looking forward to the use cases that we're already seeing in both regions. In terms of looking at some of the exciting opportunities that we have here, it seems to be very, very expansive, and we're very much looking forward to it.
Okay, welcome. Now, use cases are very important. I want to ask you some use cases, but first, can you tell us how does stable coins affecting financial inclusion? Can you give us some numbers about financial inclusion, maybe in the region or globally?
Yeah, absolutely. As a company who's committed to financial inclusion, obviously reducing the cost of remittances and cross-border payments is extremely important to us. Already, USDC has over 12 trillion US dollars in transaction, which shows that we have already upgraded the way people send, receive, and save their money, right? If I put the institutional use cases on the side for a minute, and I look at the financial inclusion part specifically, I want us to consider the fact that over 1.7 billion people, almost 2 billion people, remain unbanked or underbanked globally, right? What's interesting is that 2/3 of those still have access to a smartphone, which basically provides a great opportunity for regulated stablecoins like USDC to onboard this huge segment of the population into the Web3 space and also provide an alternative to the traditional financial system. And that's how we're seeing basically USDC being used to transfer value between people and to onboard people in the digital economy. The second thing I want to sort of highlight here is that if you look at this region specifically, we have over almost 150 or 40 million people that are unbanked. The UAE itself has over 80% of the expats remain underbanked, right? So these are usually low-income people that tend to send money back home, and they tend to carry the brunt of paying very high remittance fees, from both regions. If I use the World Bank example, I believe the average fees that are used for remittances is between 6 to 8%, depending on where you are. Using a stablecoin like USDC can actually reduce that cost by 80%. Now, going back to financial inclusion, if you look at the UN SDGs goal when it comes to reducing transaction fees or remittance fees, it's meant to be around 3% or less. So this is a great example of how USDC can really impact sort of these remittances. And one final point I want to sort of highlight, which is also important, is that if you look at the GCC region specifically, KSA and the UAE represent the second and third largest outbound remittance corridor in the world after the US. And what's interesting here is that we are serving, as a strategic location, we're serving very important markets and some of the largest markets that are on the other side receiving these remittances. This includes the India, Pakistan, Egypt, Morocco, you name it. So what is important for us as a company is being at the cusp of this and bridging sort of this gap where we are basically improving the adoption of USDC from this region through USDC as well as programmable wallets. We know that indirectly in the long term we're going to impact basically the use of that on the other side, which by itself will improve this topic around financial inclusion.
I was, to be honest, a bit surprised about the numbers of unbanked people in the region. But what you said, reducing the cost of transfers is very, I think, important because this year COP28 will be in Dubai and sustainable development goals. One of them is, I think, reducing the cost of payments, right? Okay. Now, also there are countries around us, there's hyperinflation or high inflation like my country, Turkey. How is stable coins helping people increasing their savings?
So our data shows that USDC is already being used as a store of value. We know that 75% of the current USDCs in circulation are basically being held either in smart contracts or digital wallets compared to being sort of held in centralized exchanges. That already sort of highlights the correlation for sort of a US dollar denominated store of value. If you look at some of the data that have been published last year by Chain Analysis and some of the data points that have been released this month, I believe their report is coming out at the end of this month, it shows that the Middle East and Africa region is the 6th largest crypto corridor in the world, right? With over $400 billion in transaction just in 1 year. If you look at the list on that index, some of the top 30 countries listed there represent the use cases basically around store of value and remittances. If I use Turkey as an example, Turkey has, I think, over 47% inflation, I think, based on the data that I've seen recently. And not only that, the local currency has been devalued by over 80%. You can use Lebanon as another example. So what we are noticing in Turkey specifically is that people have moved, traditionally they used to use BTC and sort of other crypto assets, whereas now we've seen a huge influx in the use of stable coins because of the benefits, because people are using it as a hedge against inflation and as a way of saving, right, and keeping the value of their money. We do have current examples in Turkey where our partners are offering their employees the option to convert their salaries into USDC. So this shows that we're moving from speculation to real-world utility when it comes to stablecoins, and we're likely to see this increase in the coming years. In fact, I believe last year's transactions when it comes to stablecoins in general was $7 trillion, which was half of the transactions made by Visa and MasterCard. So that already gives you an indication of what we should be expecting in the coming years.
I want to jump in on another topic, humanitarian aid. Unfortunately, there are conflicts around this region and people need aid. How does stablecoin help this aid, sending this, transferring this aid? And I know that you are partnering with United Nations Refugee Agency and Red Cross. Can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Circle has become, and USDC specifically has become sort of the go-to currency, digital currency when it comes to humanitarian aid and facilitating those transfers. As an example, we work with the UN, like you said, both with UN and MoneyGram, where we actually transfer some of this aid across the world. One recent example was in Ukraine, where the UN, as well as Circle and Stella, worked together to actually transfer these donations to Ukraine. Another example was in Venezuela, where during COVID we facilitated again salaries to front aid workers in South America. And what is important here is that in the case of sort of aid and charitable donations, we're not only reducing the cost of these transactions, we're allowing the users to actually receive and also save that fund in their wallet, and they can then decide how much of it to convert into cash and when they want to do that through the 200 locations that we have with MoneyGram around the world. So in addition to this, what USDC does here is that it removes the risk of corruption, and it reduces, again, the risk linked to hyperinflation. And we're seeing a lot of interest in this space, and we're very much looking forward to building partnerships in this region to expand on the work that we're doing, especially in the Middle East, given some of the conflicts that we are seeing, and also in sort of connecting Sub-Saharan Africa as well with some of the work that's being done there.
We still have time, so one more question maybe. If you think of more futuristic, how will stable coins or Circle will change remittances, payments, or saving industry? What do you think? What will we see as a change?
I see a world where we have a convergence between the traditional banking system and sort of the use of stablecoins, regulated stablecoins like USDC, and I see us probably reducing some of the challenges that we have currently when it comes to financial inclusion, when it comes to reducing the number of the unbanked, when it comes to really making sure that we don't leave anyone behind. Because we're moving fast into sort of the Web3 economy, the digital transformation economy, and we want to make sure that we don't leave anyone behind when we onboard into a fully cashless society.
Now I want to have a Q&A session also. Lastly, I want to ask you a key takeaway message. I mean, what should our audience remember when we finish this conversation?
I mean, look, we're here as a company to really have an impact across the board in the region and to work very closely with local and regional partners, both on the institutional side, but also on the humanitarian side. Because if you know this already, we're a B2B company, so we do not serve the retail user directly, and the way we actually reach out to these retail users, where we see the impact, is through our close partnerships that we have around the world. So my final thought is that I would love to see great use cases. We're seeing very broad use cases in this region, and I would love to be here probably next year talking about a few examples of those that we have implemented here.
Okay, great conversation. Simon, can we have a question from the audience? We still have time. One question. Can we have a question? From gentlemen. And also, can you introduce yourself?
Thank you. Abdullah from Yemen, Yemen Kuwait Bank. I'm asking about this circle. It is C to B to C. You face many problems with settlement between banks, and many banks you have to make settlement between these banks. The other issue, how can you control you can say remittance between many banks in the world?
So if I understood your question, you're referring to sort of the on and off ramp in local markets, correct? Right.
Yes.
So traditionally, Circle has been mainly sort of focusing on banking partnerships in the US and North America to sort of support the settlement across different markets. This year, we have expanded this effort to really cover global banking partnerships, which means that in every market we're going, whether that's in APAC whether it's in Europe or that's what in this region, we're having active conversations with local banks that are robust, that can support sort of our mission and to help us make sure that we have a smooth and a seamless settlement process, but also be our partner locally. So this is one example of the kind of partners we're looking to onboard.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Miriam Kiwan from Circle. A big applause, please.
Great. Well, yes, let's have a photograph, definitely. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Ersoy. Thank you, Miriam. Great to see you. Back in 1 minute, we've been talking a lot today about the supply side of payments, the supply side of technology. We're going to switch now to a look at the buy side, particularly around retail and the role of payments and how retailers are thinking about e-commerce and thinking about payments and some of the innovations that they're making use of, which hopefully gives you some good insight for those of you that are in the paytech space or are coming from financial institutions and trying to understand what's next for customers in terms of and how to build those partnerships.